somewhere, they cause internal injuries. Why bother? I just went around the corner for some groceries.
Only a wimp or a nerd would use one.
I never use it. It's just plain uncomfortable.
Hi, I'm Roger Penske. Unlike the people you've just heard, I use it every day. It's called a seat belt. Whether you're driving one of these or one of these, your life depends on it. We're going to show you why your seat belt is perhaps the most important part of your car, because driving is no joke, whether you're going 12 or 200 miles an hour. So hang on for the ride of your life. When you're traveling at 200 miles an hour around the Indy Speedway, you can't make mistakes. A split-second reaction may mean the difference between the winning time and a disastrous accident. Driving is dangerous, and every racer knows it. High-speed driving requires professional expertise. Amateurs, well, they just don't last that long. That's why we take every precaution at the track. We use the best equipment available. We test and check our cars. We condition our minds and bodies for quick reactions and endurance. And we think safety. After all, a racer wants to win. And to do that, he first has to live. Danny Sullivan began driving professionally behind the wheel of a cab in New York not too long ago. Since then, he has earned a place amongst the world's top racers, winning the Indy 500 in 1985. He won that race through preparation and concentration, not recklessness. Reckless racing makes for a short career, and Danny plans on winning many more races. That's why Danny crossed this finish line wearing his seatbelt.
Well, I think we all start with race cars driving them. That's fun, but it's a very difficult sport. It's a difficult occupation, and there's a lot of physical requirements. Your whole body is an isometric exercise for most of the time while you're driving it, so it can be very, very difficult. The mental demands are probably greater than the physical, because the concentration required to drive a race car, different than other sports, is that there's never a break during that time. Even when you make a pit stop, you know, you're having to concentrate maybe more intensely then because there's more things to do. And we can run races up to 3.5, 4 hours, and that's a tremendous amount of time to concentrate. Just mentally shut everything out of your mind and just concentrate on what you have to do. I don't think that you could possibly drive one of these cars without a seatbelt. One, because the physical demands in the car at the speeds we're going, you'd be thrown around too much in the cockpit. Plus the fact that if anything ever happened to you and you hit anything, even brush something, the impact would be too great to just hold yourself up and not crash into the dash or the sides of the car or anything else. Sometimes I feel that probably the everyday driving is a little bit more dangerous. It sounds funny, you know, but I mean, our risks are probably greater, but what you have to contend with here is so many different kinds of drivers and circumstances with intersections, people going the other way, left and right, running, stop signs, and so forth. The similarities, of course, are that the concentration required to drive safely on a road, on an everyday use is, you know, you have to drive defensively, you have to concentrate a lot, you have to stay alert to watch out for the other guy's mistakes.
You know, I'm a good driver, and I don't get into accidents, so why should I have to wear a seatbelt?
You know, it's interesting that a recent survey found that over 80% of Americans considered themselves better than average drivers. 80% thought they were better than average. Even with all these good drivers on the road, someone is injured in a car crash every 10 seconds. And every 10 minutes, someone else is killed. And just because you're a good driver doesn't mean that a bad driver can't hit you. Ask Rick Mears. As a two-time Indy 500 winner, Rick has seen his share of mishaps at the track.
You never know what kind of reason, you know, could cause an accident. I mean, everybody out there is professionals, and they're all very, very good, excellent drivers, but accidents still happen. There's no way of totally avoiding an accident. Every precaution you can take is just that much better off. The safety equipment that is built for the race cars today, you know, is by far better than they've ever had. And with technology, it's getting better all the time. And for people not to make use of that technology is crazy. And you know, in the race cars, the protective equipment that we wear, the shoes, the suits, the helmets, and the seat belts in the car, you know, seat belts especially for staying in place. You know, when something like that does happen, you'd be a fool to run home without it. I feel one of the biggest problems on the street today is the fact that a big percentage of the people don't realize there's anybody on the road but themselves, so they don't really drive defensively or pay enough attention. And you never know, you can never count on what somebody's going to do.
This just shows that accidents can happen, and these people probably thought they were, you know, excellent drivers, and they probably are excellent drivers, but when somebody does something that the other one doesn't know about, there's really nothing you can do about it. And that's the part you have to prepare for, be prepared for.
This IndyCar has thousands of moving parts. To win a race, they all have to work in perfect unison. In the years I've been involved in auto racing, I've seen all sorts of changes. But there's one part that hasn't changed since Troy Ruttman drove this car to victory in 1952, and that's this. There hasn't been a racing car built since then without one. It would be like designing a car without brakes, and that's why the car you ride in has them also. Seat belts are hardly an option. They're a critical component of any car. Lyn St. James is not only the top female race car driver in North America, she also happens to be the fastest woman racer in history. The fact that she broke 204 miles an hour at Talladega shows her determination to win. The fact that she made that speed record wearing a seatbelt shows her determination to live.
Unfortunately, the image that race drivers have are that we have no brains and a lot of guts. We just put the foot down and go for it. It takes a lot of courage and a lot of determination to drive a race car, but you have to have a lot of brains as well. It's a lot of combination of strategy and thinking. Concentration level is tested to the absolute limit. When we get in the race car, whether we're just driving the car to the grid or whether we're going out getting ready to go 200 plus miles an hour, that seatbelt goes on. It's an automatic part of getting in the car. It's a habit when I get in the race car, and now it's a habit when I get into the street car. Fact is, you're a better driver, you have better car control when you have your seatbelt on. In a turn, when a car loses control, you're hanging onto the steering wheel. Well, if you're hanging onto the steering wheel without being planted firmly in the seat by the seatbelt, you are now a movable object instead of being the pilot. So you have better car control. You will be a better driver if you wear your seatbelt. Seatbelts can trap you in a burning car. I'd much rather be thrown clear of the accident.
We've all heard this excuse, and it's just ridiculous. For starters, wearing a seatbelt is the best way to ensure that you won't be knocked unconscious in a crash.
If you had an accident that was severe enough that you got trapped into if you turned the car upside down or something of that nature, where there was a danger of a fire or something like that, probably by not having the seatbelt on, you'd be unconscious or knocked out some fashion or through the windshield or whatever, so you wouldn't be going anywhere. I think the thing about wearing a seatbelt is it's going to keep you intact. When the accident's all over, you're going to be able to unbuckle it and get out and still have your senses about you.
If you don't have the seatbelt on and you have a bad enough accident,